Hey guys, and welcome back to .NET episode 3. I'm not gonna lie, this has been totally rushed this week. Last week, if you were keeping up to date with me, I had some major issues with what I thought was my internet provider, and it was for a little while, and then that got fixed, and I realized it was actually my switch. So I had to take my switch apart, my Netgear switch, which is under the desk, and turned out um, I had a couple of loose connections, so I had to open it up, resolder it rather than send it away, wait for another one to come back. But it seems to be working now. I'm not dropping any frames. I'm watching it here, and I've just been super busy at work and things at work. Again, if you've been keeping up, I've been going through some changes at work. People are being let go, yada yada yada. So that's all kind of coming to a head. So it's just been really busy, and then yesterday and today I've been very busy helping out a friend with some stuff. In fact, I just finished dismantling a shed for her and moving it with the help of another friend. So literally just had food and I've come in and I've had a really quick look online. I haven't really been keeping up to date with all the stuff that's been going on. But there's a few stories that were quite interesting. But like I say, I've not really been keeping up to date. I've had lots of other things to do, guys. So apologies for that. But I thought, I crapped out last week on the live stream because of technical difficulties, so I thought I at least owed it to you to get online, even if it's not like perfect. But I have been working on another video which is coming out. So I finally finished, which took way longer than I thought. I finally finished testing all these thermal pastes. I thought it would take me like 22, 24 hours. It ended up taking me well over 30 because I kind of restarted my testing, but that video is edited and rendered. I just need to upload it to YouTube, so I'll probably do that tonight or maybe tomorrow morning. It's quite interesting. I won't say too much about it, but it opened my eyes certainly to a lot of the things that I kind of thought were facts, and they're not facts, obviously, once you look into it. So some other news, there's going to be some changes. So I'm going to be buying a new graphics card. I was seriously considering buying a 1080 Ti when I saw the performance better than a Titan for sort of almost half the price. Never had a Ti, I've never had a kind of high-end GPU ever. I've always kind of bought that bang for buck card. So I was looking into that, then I was looking at the price of the 1080 in Britain because it's come down a little bit, but I think I'm going to get a 1070, guys. I think next week, probably next Thursday, Friday, I'm going to order a 1070. Take out the two 970s in this rig. One of them will be going in my Ryzen build. I'm not sure what the other one's, what's going to happen to the other one. Might have plans for that. Not sure yet, but definitely I'm going to be getting a 1070. I'm going to be getting a new camera. Not because my GoPros actually served me very well, but I've just noticed in the low light conditions that it struggles a little bit. So I'm going to get an SLR. I'd like an SLR anyway to take photos and things, but also for the channel, it would make my life a hell of a lot easier for filming, and especially filming stuff, small stuff and panning and things like that. It would certainly make it easier to be a bit more creative. So that's it for me. There's probably other bits and bobs I'll end up picking up as well, tech-wise. Well, the R5's getting released. R5 1600, in fact, is getting released in April. So I'll probably pick one of those up, an X370 board, try and get 16 or 32 gigs of RAM. Put it in my old case, which I have the spray paint now for respraying my old case underneath here. I just need to get some decent weather to respray that all up. It all needs to come apart. I need to take everything out of it. It's still got power supply, hard drives, yada 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 inside it. So that all needs to come out, and that needs to be stripped down, masked off, and sprayed, ready for the new Ryzen PC that's going to be going into it. And I'm actually quite looking forward to having two rigs again. Certainly when I was doing all the testing with this thermal paste, it would have been really, really good to have two PCs. Because literally, I would take the pump head off, clean it, put the new paste on, put the pump head back on, and then I would just sit and let it idle, measure the ambient temperature in the room, wait for an hour, and then record everything in Excel, and then IDA 64 for an hour, then record everything, then turn everything off, wait for it to cool down, take the pump head out. It was really, monotonous. And in that time, I couldn't really use my machine for anything else because I wanted to keep everything apples to apples. So having a second machine, I definitely see the benefit to having a second machine because doing all that testing really held me back, guys. It was just starting to piss me off by the end of it. I was so glad to get to the last thermal paste. But anyway, Ryzen. This brings us nicely into this story. So yeah, April 11th. AMD are launching their R5 series, which 6 cores and 4 cores. So 6 cores, 12 threads, 4 cores, 8 threads. Amazingly, the Ryzen 5 1500X, which is 4 core, 8 threads. So basically an i7, and in the lineup, in the stack up of Intel product, $189, guys. That's like i3 territory. I really do think if this works out, I really do think AMD have largely made i3s redundant. The G series Pentiums, I think, are still going to be the real bang for buck winners. They're really good chips. Those little dual cores that are hyper threaded are really, really good chips for the price. Like £80 or something for the Kaby Lake variant in the UK. Absolutely unbelievable value there. Absolutely unbelievable. Even this R5 1500X with 4 cores, 8 threads, 3.5 gigahertz base and 3.7 gigahertz boost is not going to beat that in performance per dollar. The one thing I do have, I mean, the pricing of these is amazing here. Like, you know, so 4 cores, 8 threads, 4 cores, 8 threads, $169, $189, and then these are the two I'm more interested in: the 1600 and the 1600X, 6 cores, 12 threads, $219 and $249. So those are interesting to me because I've currently got a 6 core Broadwell E chip, and I think this 1600X versus the 6800K will be a really interesting comparison because everything we've seen so far, the Broadwell E IPC seems to be equal to Ryzen's IPC. Thereabouts. Ryzen's a bit faster in some things, a bit slower in other things. But I think this is a fair comparison, looking at the clock speeds as well. Although my 6800K is overclocked to 4.5, I managed to get 4.5 gigahertz out of it, which is pretty insane. I don't think these R5s are gonna overclock very well. Essentially, AMD, I don't know what the 4 cores are, but I know the 6 cores are essentially all AMD have done. Is the 6 cores are going to be exactly the same die layout. So 2 compute complexes, 4 cores in each one, and all they're going to do is turn off one of the cores in each compute complex. So you're still going to have that crosstalk CPU latency. PC Pair did a really good article on this, where they actually measured the ping between the CPUs and then between the clusters, and they did the same thing on a 6900K. And that seems to make a lot of sense as to where the performance in Ryzen is dipping, because between cores on the same cluster, performance is fantastic. It's really low latency. But when you want to talk between each cluster, that's when the latency is really high. Whereas the Intel the Intel architecture doesn't have that problem. I wonder if I can find it actually quickly. It's quite interesting. It's quite a good Astra Technica. Do they have it? It's quite an interesting article. Is this it? See, I should have. So one of the few things I actually thought was quite interesting. Where is it? Ryzen. Let's have a look. Alright, yeah, no silver bullet. This is it here, guys. Sorry about this. This is a bit impromptu. So yeah, this is a really, really good article from PC perspective. I'll make it a bit bigger so you guys can see it. So here we go. So basically, in this article, they're talking about how everyone thought it was the Windows 10 scheduler that was the kind of elephant in the room, if you like. So we keep scrolling down. I won't bother going through all of this. This is just different cores loaded. There's one very, very good graph that illustrates it very, very well. Here we go. So ping times. So what they did was they basically pinged data between the logical cores, so not physical cores, logical cores on a 5960X. So here we go. So this is the data being pinged when it's received, going back. So here's a latency in nanoseconds. So it's around 80 nanoseconds between logical cores. So you can see it goes from core 0 all the way up to core 15. 5960X, 80 nanoseconds across the board. Going down to the 1800X, notice anything funny? Yep, that's a compute complex there, and this is a compute complex here. So latency between logical cores on each compute complex is really low. It's like half of what it is on the 5960X. It's amazing, really. But then when you want to pass data between each compute complex, you know, the latency is insane. It's like 50% more. It's 140 nanoseconds versus 80 of the Intel chip. So the Intel chip goes along here like this, steady line. And look at that. And that's where I think the performance is being killed with Ryzen. I don't think it's a Windows scheduler issue, because if it was a Windows scheduler issue, you wouldn't be seeing this here. The way they did this was, sorry guys, was they wrote a really simple code, really simple bit of code in C++ just to pass data between the logical cores. You can go and read this article. It's worth reading. It's quite interesting. Quite like PC They're pretty good PC perspective. They're very, very, very good. But this is really interesting. So I think if there was an issue with the Windows 10 scheduler, you wouldn't be seeing this like basically 40 nanosecond latency in each compute complex. It would be up and down, up and down, up and down, because basically the Windows scheduler wouldn't know what to do with that data. It wouldn't know where to pass it from. Might be slightly different in a truly multi-threaded application in terms of if the scheduler is being asked to part cores and things like that. But equally, I think this is a very good illustration of maybe an issue AMD might run into with the architecture they've gone for. So essentially, 2 4-cores fused together. Not that it's a massive issue, because in terms of productivity, it doesn't really hold them behind. But I would say you should go away and read this article. It's very, very interesting. But we'll go back to what we were talking about. So yeah, Ryzen 5 looking very good, very interested. Can't wait for the R5 1600 and 1600X to come out. Again, I can't see it being an amazing overclocker, essentially because it's using, as I said before, the same architecture, just with 2 cores turned off, one on each compute complex. The benefit is that it's going to end up with like a huge amount of level 3 cache, because it's going to have the same amount of level 3 cache. I would hope they do nothing else to it that the 1800 does, which is pretty cool. And if the cache is fast, then that will make up for some performance. And that's one thing they could do if they can't get past this architectural problem. If it is a problem, is that they could just make chips with faster cache, and that faster cache is probably equivalent to, you know, a few hundred megahertz of raw performance. That's been shown before. Quite a lot of people have talked about that. I'd head over to Level 1 Techs if you want to learn more about that, and Level 1 Linux as well. Wendell, really, really good, very interesting stuff he's done. He's looked at CPU cache and CPU cache timings. And just CPU cache amount can make a huge difference in terms of performance. So yeah, interested in these chips, not expecting them to come out. And in terms of overclocking, I'm not expecting a 1600X or 1600 to come out and blow my 6800K out of the water in terms of overclocking. I think if I can get all 6 cores stable at 4 gigahertz, I'd be happy with that. And then price to performance, it's going to kick the ass out of the 6800K. There's no two ways about it. And again, it'll be absolutely fine for gaming. I have no problems. Even before I overclocked my 6800K, I had no problems with gaming. Then again, I'm not looking for the absolute maximum frames I can get. I'm looking for a really smooth experience at 1440p on kind of higher ultra settings. But yeah, if you were to benchmark this against 7700K, it'll get tanked. But that's not where it's competing. So yeah, excited about Ryzen 5. I'm very generally excited about AMD this year. They seem to be going in the right direction, and I can't argue with any of this promotional bump innovation. That's true. AMD competition, that is absolutely true. Ryzen 3, interesting again, just to see where they're going to go with the price points. It's going to be less than, well, there might be a bit of overlap, but it'll be $160 down. So interesting to see what those sub $100 chips can offer. Like for instance, if in the R3 lineup, if they were to offer a pure quad core, they were just to fuse off one compute complex, would you be able to overclock that for that 4-core complex with 8 megabytes level 3 cache? So basically an i5 for, say, I don't know, $130 and get i5 level performance out of it. That would really shake up the gaming market. But again, we need to wait and see what's going to happen. It's a very young chipset, it's a very young architecture, so we need to let it mature a bit. But all in all, very impressed. Still really, really, really impressed with, yeah, still really impressed with Ryzen and what it's doing. Again, things like this, you know, multi-core Cinebench multi-threaded test against a quad core with no hyper-threading 6700K, pointless. I know they're going price point to price point, but it's a pointless benchmark. It should win. It's got 6 cores and 12 threads. If it didn't win, I'd be worried. But anyway, that's the way AMD are doing it. They're going to disrupt the market price. So they're always going to take it at a price point rather than core count. So let's move on to the 500 series cards, which I am slightly disappointed about. So yeah, RX 580, feature Polaris 20XTX, RX 560 to use Polaris 21, blah blah blah. Basically, this is just a 400 series refresh. Now that the 14 nanometer process has become more efficient, which is fine. It's okay. I can't remember this. Yeah, they're going to be based on 14 nanometer LPP. Now I can't remember what LPP stands for. It's low power something. Yeah, low power plus. Yeah, and the other ones were the last year's graphics cards, the 480, 470 were low power early, so the early edition of that technology. So yeah, that's a natural thing for AMD to do, is to take that 14 nanometer FinFET technology they've had quite a lot of success with in the mid-range and lower end market. They really shook up that end of the GPU market. And now a year down the line, it's a bit more mature. The yields are probably better. These cards are also going to come with higher clocks out of the factory. I think it's going to go up on average by about 100 megahertz base clock boost. So instead of coming out at say 1250, 1280, they might come out of the factory base clock at between 1330, 1380. Don't know if the headroom for overclocking is going to improve on these. Mileage has varied on the 400 series. A lot of people were disappointed with the 480. The 480 I got my hands on seemed to overclock absolutely fine. It's in a customer's build, in a friend's build I did for him. I did a video on that a while ago. Find it. You go and search through the channel, you'll find that. And yeah, I had a thoroughly brilliant experience with the 480 overclocking it. No problems, no complaints, great card. I got mine all the way up to 1450, and I think I could probably get 1475 out of it. I mean, still very low clocks in terms of when you think about NVIDIA cards running at sort of boosting up to 2 gigahertz, but still, it was not a bad overclocker in my experience. However, like I said, mileage differed on that quite a lot. There's a lot of people who had very bad experiences with 480s. And a lot of people just 480s that just wouldn't go beyond 1350, 1370. They're struggling to get past 1400 megahertz. I would say if you have a 480, don't buy a 500 series card if you're wanting to upgrade from your 480. I would look at something like a 1070 or wait for Vega to drop later in the year. These are basically just being rebranded. That's it. Interesting though. Interesting that they feel confident enough to put this to market a year down the line. They kind of have to. They have to find a new way of getting money out of us. I kind of think that's why the 1080 Ti as well this time is more powerful than the Titan. I think that's purely a business decision to get $700 or £700 out of the consumer rather than 1200, because I don't think many people are spending £1,200 on a GPU. £700 even I considered, like I said at the start, but no, it's a bit too much for me to spend on a graphics card. But more people will spend 700 than 1200. So yeah, pretty shrewd by Nvidia, a complete business move. And again, with this is just a complete business move by AMD. It makes a lot of sense. They are not bringing anything new to the market with these 500 series cards. But then again, they haven't said that they were going to. So yeah, it's not really a big change. I mean, you can see the differences here, the rebrands. Like I said, you're basically getting a base clock boost out of the factory, and that's purely because the process is more mature and the yields are better and they can get more out of the silicon. But anyway, interesting. If you're still looking to upgrade, a 580 might not be a bad choice. If you don't have 1070, 1080 money to spend. I'm assuming the pricing on these is going to be fairly similar to the pricing of the 400 series cards when they dropped last year. And just keep Intel in there, because I don't want it to seem like it's the AMD show, even though AMD are the only company doing anything at the moment. So something close to my heart, something I filled with a lot in the past, is Xeons. I love Xeons. I've had quite a few Xeon PCs. I think they're great. They used to represent exceptional value for money when the multipliers or the base clocks were unlocked. Fortunately, Intel changed that very recently, so it's kind of kicked the ass out the second-hand Xeon market. 2670 is still a really good buy. 8 cores, 16 threads. It's unlocked. If you can get one for, you can get the chip for around £80, maybe say $60. It's a really good deal. Get a board that supports it. Absolutely beast gaming machine and productivity machine that most 2670s I've heard about will hit 4 gigahertz, no problem. So yeah, like if you're, and they're LGA 2011, so it's not that old a chipset. If you can get your hands on one, absolutely fantastic. But this is quite interesting. I don't know how much people are going to be interested in the audience. I like Xeon, so I find it interesting anyway. So Intel's Skylake EP, I don't know what EP stands for, extreme something I would assume. Xeon E5 2699 version 5, 32 cores and 64 threads. Unbelievable. I mean, I wish there was a scale on this photograph so I could see how big that bit of silicon is, because I'm assuming it's massive. To get 32 physical cores on there is unbelievable. I haven't really read this, I just kind of saw it and I love Xeons, so let's have a look. So yeah, it's a bit of an up single core score. What is that in Geekbench? Multi-core score, yeah. So the single core score is like 4,000 and the multi-core score is 50,000, so that's pretty impressive. Uploaded quite recently. Yeah, running on Linux, unsurprisingly. Google Compute Engine, Intel Xeon 2.3 gigahertz is actually not that slow considering how many 32 cores on that. 2.3 gigahertz is pretty fast. And this thing's going to throw out a huge amount of heat. Level 1, level 2, what's the level 3 cache? Fucking hell, 46 megs of level 3 cache. That's pretty impressive. And it's on a Google Compute Engine. I wonder what else they've got here. Let's have a look. Not a lot. Yeah, crypto score, blah blah blah. Impressive numbers. Very fast. A lot of raw computing power. But yeah, just wanted to keep Intel in the discussion because Intel are still making stuff. They're still making inroads. This is obviously trying to answer the Naples question that's going to be brought to the enterprise sector in the second half, maybe end of the second quarter, certainly second half of this year, with AMD not only offering a CPU solution but also offering a kind of GPU compute solution and offering a whole product really where you can buy these already kind of 2U stack systems or multiple 2U stack systems with AMD hardware, both CPU and GPU accelerated machine learning essentially stuff. So I think this is obviously Intel trying to say to the enterprise market that, hey, look, we've got a 32 core part as well. You don't have to just look at Naples. And yeah, I mean, they had to do something because they stand to lose a lot of money. I mean, I know people in the enthusiast market tend to get a bit they tend to forget that while companies make a lot of money from the enthusiast marketplace, like people like me and you watching this, I mean, the amount of money Intel make from that is like nothing. It's maybe like a quarter of what they're making from the enterprise space. So I think they're more concerned, to be honest, about what is happening in the enterprise space and what's happening in the enthusiast space and gaming space. Because to be honest, I think it's probably going to take maybe a generation, probably another generation of Ryzen CPUs before hardcore gamers are going to move over to AMD. Just because Intel has been the king for so long, and no matter what you say, most people, unless they're real enthusiasts and have always bought that bang for buck product, you know, they're not going to move. They're not going to move over until, you know, they're not going to be early adopters like me. Like, I'm going to get an R5 as soon as it comes out. But someone who's been buying i5s from Intel for the past 8 years is not going to be an early adopter onto a new AMD platform. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that's the way human beings are. So I don't think Intel are particularly worried at the moment about their gaming / enthusiast space. And I don't really think they're that bothered about chips like the 6900K or the 6950X, because although they're in the high desktop, pardon me, enthusiast kind of range, not many people are buying those chips. I would say they're kind of a small business purchase, to be honest, or maybe a small production house or a YouTube channel or something like that. A bigger YouTube channel would use something like that. But people like me or people like yourselves, if you're an enthusiast and you want the most value for your money, you're probably going to sit or have been buying 6 cores since Intel has been making 6 cores, because that's really where the price performance lies, for me anyway. But I think I'm glad to see Intel have done this. I'm glad to see there's some sort of response to what AMD are doing, because really in the gaming market and the enthusiast market, there hasn't really been a response of any kind from Intel to what AMD are doing. So yeah, it's good. I expected them to do something in the enthusiast market, and I'm not surprised they've done this. They had to do something because otherwise Naples was going to come out the gate with more cores, more threads. Probably, I would say, based on AMD's pricing, cheaper than the current Intel offerings or the new Intel offerings. And, you know, they'd already been signing deals with people like Alibaba last year and other large firms. And I did a video exploring this towards the end of last year, why Intel's dominance is over. And it's not just AMD they've got to worry about. Like people like ARM and Qualcomm, you know, moving to 10 nanometers already, some of these companies. Intel have got a lot to worry about, and I think they necessarily don't have to be worried about the old enemy, as it were, in terms of AMD, but they need to maybe think about other companies out there that are coming after them as well. But yeah, not surprised to see this. Glad to see it though, because I like xeons. I think xeons are really interesting. I think the amount of compute power on this thing is is going to be unbelievable. The price of this thing is probably also going to be unbelievable, I would have thought. Thousands and thousands of dollars. Again, where this would go, I don't know, because companies like Facebook and Google probably aren't going to buy a 32 core, 64 threaded chip. They're probably more likely to buy your middle of the range Xeon or middle of the range Naples chip, the kind of workhorse one, because they're buying so many. Like, you know, they don't need something like this. So interesting to see where this will go, what the market is for this, because it will cost an arm and a leg. In fact, I'd probably have to sell my child to get one of these. I don't think he's worth that much, to be honest. I don't think I'd get enough to get one of these chips. But anyway, moving on, guys. Rumors. So, AMD working on 16-core, 32-thread Ryzen CPU to take the performance crown in the high-end desktop spectrum. Well, I haven't heard about this before. Overclock 3D. All right, okay. Again, I was just kind of scooting through the internet before I came. I literally spent 10 minutes before I started the stream going through stories, so don't hate me. I'm just busy. I'm really busy at the moment, guys. I'm really sorry. So again, it doesn't really surprise me because they need something. They don't need it, but they would like something to compete with the 6950X. They would like something to compete at that price range, because everything else they've got is blown the Intel offering out of the water. So they can come along, like it says here, offers the 6950X at 1700 to 1800 USD, but about $1,000, if not less, for some SKUs coming soon. So I would think that the 16 core 32 thread AMD part would probably come in around the $1,000 range, so not quite half price, but nearly half price. And again, would just make this. The 6950X is 10 core, if I remember rightly. So if they come out with a 16 core part, it'll absolutely destroy it. And at the end of the day, if they make this CPU and they release it and it's $1,000 and it's got 6 more cores and 12 more threads than the 6950X, I'm sure the 6950X has 10 cores. If I'm wrong, guys, please correct me if anyone's out there watching. If it's got more, if it's got 12 cores or whatever, let me know. I honestly can't remember. I'm pretty sure it's got 10 cores. Then it's going to absolutely smoke it, because you don't, and there's no point if they release this chip doing gaming benchmarks on it, because you do not buy the 6950X or whatever it'll be, 16 core part from AMD to play games. So if this chip was to drop and people benchmarked it on games, that would be an absolute waste of time, because the equivalent Intel part is not bought to play games. It's purely bought for productivity, and it will destroy it in productivity. We've seen that already from the Ryzen lineup, that in productivity, equivalent Intel parts, despite generally having faster clocks, they get beaten. Plain and simple, they get beaten, and that's it. So I'm really interested to see what happens here if they are going to release a consumer 16 core part, which would be the equivalent to a kind of Naples or low end Naples CPU maybe. And there's just Walter from Alien. Can't wait to see this movie. It's gonna be fantastic. I'm tempted to kind of click on it, but I won't bother. And that's really it, guys. That's it for this week. So, yeah, kind of interesting. Again, apologies for it being so rushed. But like I said, I've just been really busy and there's been loads of stuff happening. But there's going to be a video, like I said, I'll either be uploading it tonight or tomorrow morning to YouTube and releasing it. You can find out if there's any point spending hundreds and hundreds or of pence, not pounds. Thermal paste isn't that expensive. If there's any point spending more on your thermal paste or spending less or not using the stuff that comes with your cooler, yada yada yada. Pretty interesting to do looking back on it. When I was doing it, I absolutely hated it. So, but like I said, changes coming to the channel. Be changing up PC, getting a new graphics card, getting a new camera for the channel. Be building that AMD build, probably mid-April-ish, I think. by the time they hit the shelves in the UK. And that's it, guys. So if you don't have any questions, I am going to get out here, and I hope you have a great Sunday evening, and I will catch you again later on, guys. But I will hang about for a minute or two, and after that, I'll just wind down the show if you don't have any questions. Okay, guys? Okay, guys, I am going to stop the stream because nothing's happening, and I will catch you on Wednesday for the Deathwing live stream. That's going to be coming back online as well, chapter 4, I believe, and I'll be releasing videos as the weeks progress. So take it easy, guys. Thanks for watching. As always, have a good one.